18th and final car, LCR Apex, parks up in his grid slot. It means the 5 red lights can come on ahead of the drivers here for the very first time in Saudi Arabia, where it's lights out and away we go. QBR20 Star does streak clear into the lead, but Freeman goes around the outside at turn 1 and has to get his nose in on the inside at turn 2. Star streaks clear because of this side-by-side duel. Typical F1 covers him off, and there's contact between him and PSR Freeman. Oh my word, the second and third place drivers collide. Freeman dropping to 5th. Typical F1 dropping to 10th. Unbelievable scenes. We've also got Joseeeph Savoya around as well. TMS Sora, who finished on the podium last time out in Bahrain as well. Typical F1 continuing to go backwards. Is there damage on that Mercedes? There could well be. Freeman in 6th place, but he's knocked out of it. Typical F1, he defended aggressively to the right-hand side, but... Oh, and there's more contact! And this time it's FRT Blackie around. I think he may well have tangled with Nico, but it was always set to be a chaotic lap for the first ever Tier 2 lap at Jeddah. But wow, I wasn't expecting that. So much drama ongoing here, and we're only 1 lap in. We've still got 24 more laps of this. And we could well see a 3-wide moment as Star leads the end of lap 1. PSR Freeman trying to pull to the right-hand side, maybe down the left on MXZ33. Immortal trying to get in the mix as well. Freeman goes around the outside. He's doing what he did on lap 1. He's trying to force the Williams of MXZ33 out wide there. But the Max Verstappen fan, the Dutchman himself, won't have any of it, will he? MXZ fights back brilliantly. Freeman's attack was aggressive once more into turn 2. It was fair. Absolutely. And sometimes you've got to try those things to make a move on the inside of turn 2. But here comes his teammate Immortal. He runs deep. Can he hold it around the outside on the banking? It's never quite going to work on a bank corner like that. Immortal will have further opportunities as Star breaks clear of DRS at the moment ahead of Ventham. Ventham has 2.2 seconds on Nico. Nico has a second on Seb. So we're starting to see some packs forming, but the top 4 are rather escaping here. LCR Apex causing the yellow flag at the back there as Immortal had a look around the outside into turn 22. Again, you're going to have to need a miracle there to pull that off. But Immortal goes the long way round and has the straight line speed, and through the middle comes LS Carbon in his quest for a podium. He's on the outside of Freeman now, looking to rub salt into the wounds of Freeman, and he gets the long way round. He gets all the way round, and Carbon moves up into P6, but for how much longer as Freeman is trying to attack back? Line Violet's going to be on the outside. Carbon up the inside. There's a bit of contact with Immortal. He certainly wasn't enough alongside there to really be entitled to commit to that move. So Immortal does the right thing there and really just takes his apex. Carbon was just a little bit too late thinking about it. It's starting to get dark. It's overcast, of course, so it's already quite dull and quite dim over the circuit. But we're going to see an evening race. I believe it's 4 times time acceleration as well. So, yeah, it's really going to change the mood in this race. The track conditions as well. Don't forget, I think Ventham running right up to the wall there, but he's starting to gain a bit here on Star. So maybe Star was the one that made the error, and Ventham is pushing here to try and get back in the DRS. Sorry, I will get the ERS up for you guys, and it's no surprise to see that Ventham is pushing it to its deployment limits, whereas Star is just starting to save ever so slightly. Violet getting ahead of Freeman. Freeman's had a rough start to this race. Tangled with typical F1. And here comes MXZ for P3 at the moment. He gets it done on Nico far before the braking zone for turn 1. And MX Seb will look to push on now and try to catch the front two. May start battling in a moment or two, because Ventham is now within half a second of QBR20 Star and will absolutely have DRS. And we've got a yellow flag, as I believe Immortal is up to a battle with LS Carbon, but further back it's Rafik F1 who is pretty much coming to a halt on the run to turn 4. I'm not quite sure what's happened to the Red Bull driver. And further forward as well, we're still seeing immense battles involving Typical F1 and TTM, not TTM, Vivid Simba Rocks 1, as Typical F1 gets ahead of the Red Bull softs against mediums. It's a bit of a mismatch at the moment, because we know what pace Typical F1 has, but he's starting his recovery job. He's got a long way to recover. Not many places on the track where he can realistically make moves, but Typical F1 gets a 3-second time penalty to add to his early troubles here. Beautiful camera shot of them making their way through the turn 22-23 high-speed chicane. The track almost feels like just a constant S section. Constantly having to think about your next move. But TMS Ventham is thinking about a move potentially. He's going to start saving that ERS now. Perhaps forcing Star to use a little bit of his. Not immediately. The Star still has a healthy battery. Further back, FRT Blackie, who was tangled up with, I believe, Nico. I didn't quite see the full picture. On lap 1, is now having a fight with Shizu Savoya, who looks to go the long way round. But he might switch back a couple of times at the turn 1 and 2 chicane as they go under the bridge of peering fans. Oh, and Rafik has retired in the pit lane, and Simba Rocks 1 has come in for the hard tyres as well. It did look like he was struggling with perhaps some damage of some sort, so he's come in now for hard tyres, and he's got a long way to fight back in this race, as we're on board again with Ventham. Seeing that touch of caution at the moment. They've got plenty of time back to Seb. And so it's perhaps not full commitment at the moment. So you just hear a bit of hesitation coming through the difficult sections. But Ventham's got a great run on Star. Ventham's going to the outside on Star. And Star, without the DRS, without the slipstream, really just has to forfeit that place and say, okay, you can go through, but will Star fight back? I think he will, because he's straight on the overtake, and Ventham pulls to the right-hand side. He's got no hope this time, and Star to the left-hand side, in front and ahead, coming in towards turn 1. Some rapid switches here, and I think Seb has made a big error, unless he's just been humiliated by 2 cars at the same time, as Nico snatches back his podium position. Carbon is now up to 4th and challenging for this podium spot as it gets ever darker here in Jeddah. Look at this train, it goes from 3rd all the way on back to P8. Carbon in the slipstream definitely won't be thinking about a move into turn 13, but turns 27 and turns 1 are definitely going to be the favoured overtaking opportunities, as we've just seen demonstrated by Star and Ventham. They changed for the lead once, they changed for it twice. Star getting back up to where he started, where he continues to look to dominate from. Seb picking up a time penalty, just cut that inside part of turn 23, and he's in the slipstream of Nico and Carbon, who are going side by side. Immortal going side by side with Seb. Carbon up into P3. Seb on the inside of Nico. Nico just had to open it up to allow the Williams a bit of room, and in doing so, Immortal sweeps around the outside of Seb, who was trying to attack there. Ventham gets up into the lead of the race, but this battle is certainly our main focus of attention at the moment as they go wheel to wheel into turn 1. Nico takes to the inside, forces the Aston Martin out wide, and Nico snatches back that 3rd place once more. He just won't give it in at the moment. Immortal up into 5th. MX Seb down in 6th place now. I like it, because when I say MX, my Alexa turns on. Oh, no, turn off. Alexa, stop. Go away. There we go, it's gone. Blackie picking up a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. And Alexa aside. Oh no, it's... Oh, they didn't hear me. QBR20 Star. He looked to take this position back. Will he look to take the race lead back? Either way, they're still pulling a massive gap on this fighting train. Ventham has a 4-second gap to Nico. And here comes Carbon again. This time for P3, and he gets it done on this occasion into turn 27, like he did on the previous lap, in all fairness. But it does mean Nico is going to fight back, because he's going to have DRS this time. Let's go back to the other Haas car. Oh, re-overtaking for the lead. Nico re-overtaking for P3. Carbon's on his right, Carbon's behind, and up the inside goes Seb, and that was Max Verstappen-esque. He even opens up the steering as well, just to say, sorry, Immortal, I didn't want this position. But he couldn't quite get it done there. Here comes Freeman. Turn 4, absolutely not where you want to be sticking your nose up the inside. There's just so much to look at, so much to think about in this race. We're yet to see the pit stops as well as Line Violet running out wide there, unsurprisingly picking up a penalty for his troubles. And Star on this lap. He's at the absolute peak of charging that battery, 100%, as Immortal, I think, has just pulled off an incredible move on Carbon, which I didn't quite catch. But Immortal, if this is him not warmed up, there'll be a day where we see him fully warmed up. And that's his very best. And here he comes now for P3. He does have a penalty, but it certainly isn't over. There's a lot of penalties popping up throughout the field. So overall this may well balance out. Is any of this train going to come into the pits? Yes, Immortal does. He's going to get the undercut. He's not going to hang around with the fighting. He got himself up to P3 and takes the undercut as well. So he's going to try and build an even bigger gap on them with a pit stop. Just inviting Luca back there once again. His Wi-Fi not playing nicely with him. His university connection, of course. And so it just eases for a moment in this fight for the remaining podium spot. We've got Star and Ventham dueling out front here in the desert. Here in the city as well. This is Saudi Arabia. It is all very much desert. And Ventham has dropped off massively. So what has gone on with the McLaren? Has he made a significant error? Starting to deploy a little bit of that battery, and in doing so he can really flex his muscles and start pulling away from the McLaren as well in order to just build a nice buffer zone for the pit stop. Here comes LS Carbon. He's going for P3 once more. It's his third time of asking, keeping the position through turn 27 and on the run to turn 1. But I think this time there may well be pit stops as Star and Ventham come in, and as does Carbon. Nico stays out and has to stay out due to that double stack with Star. But our podium contending train all do come into the pits. TMS Sora setting the quickest lap of the race. And in doing so, actually jumping up now to P3 with all those pit stops. And around the outside and ahead. But for how much longer on Steve F1 as Steve tries to fight back, getting the switch back into turn 2. TMS Sora pulling off an absolutely magnificent move there as he is now the lead medium runner in this race. Ventham picking up a time penalty. Crucially, that's Ventham with a 3-second time penalty, and so Star has an even greater gap on paper to that McLaren. He just has to avoid getting a penalty for himself. LCR Apex picking up a time penalty. We're seeing it all kick off in Jeddah. Lap 10 of 25. We have 16 surviving cars out of the 17 that's entered and started this race. Continues to darken, and in fact, clouds over the skyline, making it look now quite a pretty sight as the sun continues to set. Oh, as Ventham running a little bit wide of the apex, and Line Violet actually dueling with Nico around the outside at turn 27, and Nico hits the wall. Nico makes a mistake. He got too throttle happy, and Nico, he was always going to pit on this lap, but has to serve an extra 5-6 seconds with a front wing as well. Out comes the front wing. It was a late call for the Haas team, getting a front wing out. But, well, they get one for him. And Line Violet now rejoining, just on the back of this pack as well. So, obviously, Line Violet rounded up the train in what was P8. He jumps up a position from Nico. And so I believe he's in net 7th at the moment. He has a penalty to his name. So I don't think we'll be gaining any more than that for the time being, unless he gets the job done on track. QBR20 Star just keeps finding more and more pace. Helicam with Star, the race leader. He's just flying at the moment. Well, an absolutely beautiful circuit, you have to say. Particularly on the F1 2021 game, Immortal is not going to be pushing it this time around. This is, of course, for net P2. Immortal with a penalty, Ventham with a penalty. Immortal perhaps just going to start saving some of that ERS, but we have Carbon and MX Seb not afraid to fight as Seb gets a brilliant exit and might have the inside line into turn 4, where Carbon swoops the long way round. And did he go off the track to keep that move? That may well be a question asked by the Dutchman in the Williams. But Carbon, he won't care. He's got his position back in quite spectacular fashion. It looked like Seb had the apex, had the corner, but obviously you carry more speed on the outside line. So fair play to Carbon there, still without a penalty. Nico overtaking Apex. Apex, who is, of course, yet to stop. An absolutely fantastic day we witnessed the other day. LCR Apex in SRC. What a sight that was to behold. He thoroughly enjoyed it. We have a yellow flag, and I think it's Jesus Savoya who has spun out at turn 13. Maybe he's got on to that inside curb, as we're seeing QBR20 Star clear TTM Vivid with ease. And that was perhaps a weave of thanks, a weave of... I'm not sure, but yeah, Vivid had no right to let him through. But he does just that, and almost a 3-wide moment as Seb clears Carbon and Freeman trying to go around the outside at turn 2. That doesn't work out for him, and so they're going to be single file into turn 4, which, perhaps for everyone's sanity, a great thing. Second DRS zone on the run towards turn 13, where we really haven't seen anyone try it, but obviously that is purely tactical. Because there's no point dropping time or anything. I have to say, LCR Apex getting that SRC call up was a great thing, to be honest. Obviously nobody expected him to go and score a load of points, and in fact he was miles off it. But it was a big step for him in terms of switching off line. Big step for him in general racing with competitive drivers like he used to, of course, back in the day. We mustn't forget. But yeah, LCR Apex doing the community proud there with that one. Here comes LS Carbon though. Enough of that. There's Carbon. Whoa! It's never an easy move on Seb. And Seb fights back in towards turn 1 and turn 2. And he's got another great exit. And it's going to be deja vu of a couple of laps ago. Seb gets to the apex first. Carbon has no answer this time. Oh, does he? As he goes the long way round, they touch. Carbon squeezes up the inside at turn 7. I think that was. But my oh my, Carbon is not giving him one bit. Seb goes low, tries to maybe force one up the inside again. Obviously the opportunity wasn't really there to do that. Line Violet versus PSR Freeman now for P9 on the racetrack. This is an extraordinary battle between Seb and Carbon, and Freeman is getting ahead of Violet. 1 minute you think it's over for the time being, and the next minute it just resumes at the most unorthodox parts of the circuit. Jeddah is delivering. Can we race here every week? And Immortal is finally getting his long-awaited overtake on Ventham done. He moves up into net P2. I hope, really, for his sake, he can get that to the end in that position. TMS Sora now coming in, leaving just TTM Vivid in P2 to make way for the chasing pack. And Seb goes deep into turn 1. Will he keep the position? I don't think he will, because Carbon gets another great switchback and this extraordinary fight resumes. This time Carbon gets into turn 4 in front. And so they won't be doing absolutely outrageous side-by-side battling through the rest of Sector 1. Lap 15 of 25. There'll be 10 laps to go when QBR20 Star crosses the line, and he'll cross the line 5.4 seconds in front of TMS Ventham, who is his closest rival at the moment. JB13 Immortal obviously had that net P2 taken away from him by TMS Ventham, but now the pair of them have a run on TTM Vivid, who gets out of the way very quickly. Now Immortal just has to use pure slipstream to try and get past the McLaren, but I think he's going to hold back once more here, and Seb gets ahead of Carbon here, and Carbon defends. And he does so perfectly to keep Line Violet and PSR Freeman at bay. I say PSR Freeman as well because you just know what potential there is. Crazy things like that to happen. FRT Blackie picking up a 3-second time penalty as well. I don't think that's his first. Oh, never mind. He's on 17 seconds. Love paying absolutely zero attention to the penalties, and then, well, I get surprised like that. But no, seriously though, I will take a look at the penalties for you. That is kind of what we're running with. Carbon will inherit that position from Seb if all stays as it is. Immortal and Ventham equal on the penalty front, and so they are scrapping for positions. A yellow flag, and it is FRT Blackie or at turn 14, I believe that is, as he had Simple Rocks 1 and Typical F1 overtake him. Is Immortal going to make the move in towards turn 27? Not just yet. Maybe he'll think about it towards turn 1 as well. Now he's on the overtake. Immortal is on the overtake. Immortal to the left-hand side. And Immortal back up into P2. But I don't think there's much chance at the moment of him staying there until the end. And there's been a crash on the track, and it's FRT Blackie that's crashed out. Coming through turn 23, I believe. There's a yellow flag in sector 3. And I take that back as well. That was turn 25, I think. A couple of left-handers there. But that clears up, and we don't have a need for a safety car, which I think Star may be particularly grateful for. It's 4.7 seconds out in front. And his momentum just keeps on building. He's only getting stronger as this race goes on, which I think is the sign of a potential champion this season. Typical F1 picking up a 3-second penalty now as well. He's down in P12. Remember, he tangled with PSR Freeman on the opening lap, squeezing the American into a wall. And the run to turn 4. Lion Violet we're on board with at the moment, and Sora gets a brilliant exit. Remember, he's on the reverse strategy and still looks to be contending for a podium and without a penalty as well. Keep a close eye on this man TMS Sora as he goes the long way round at turn 27, and Lion Violet is really not there to fight that one back. Once again, Sora versus Seb versus Carbon. Carbon in the middle. Sora to the left-hand side, looking to get 2 cars in the space of a straight. Sora up the inside, and he goes from 7th to 4th in a matter of seconds. His hunt for potentially even a race win is still on, as around backwards is LS Carbon. He was certainly in the hunt for a podium as well. It all unravels on the exit of turn 2, which absolutely is a difficult traction zone. But that's the last thing Carbon needed in this race. Points look certain. Didn't have a penalty either. Well, let's go back on board with TMS Sora, as he's now right on the back of his TMS teammate, TMS Bentham. Of course, sharing the same car as well, the McLaren. TMS, who really have to contend with Star in terms of the Esports Championship as well. Really is now TMS versus QBR this season. And up the inside, it's an easy one for TMS Sora. Bentham was never going to hold him up for too long. But Sora now has 1.6 seconds to try and close down Immortal, and about 7 seconds to close down QBR20 Star. Is it still possible? With 7 laps left to go, Lion Violet overtaking Seb, but Seb... Oh, and there's contact between the two. Oh, and he spun around as well, Lion Violet. Seb tried to go the long way round at turn 1 and squeeze it back up the inside at turn 2. There was a touch of contact. Lion Violet goes offline, accelerates, and spins out and loses part of that Ferrari front wing. That's another driver absolutely destined for points around on the exit of turn 2. And I wouldn't say Seb directly caused that. There was certainly a bit of contact, and it certainly dragged Lion Violet offline a little bit. But I definitely don't think the spin was a consequence of Seb, so we'll see if that one does go to the steward's room or not following the race. But here comes Sora. JP13 Immortal will perhaps be content with letting this one go. It's on 9-lap-old mediums with a time penalty. Sora 3-lap-old softs with no penalty. So I don't think he'll be too distraught by that one. He'll still look to be coming home with a podium here. He's got 1.3 seconds now over Bentham. He's done a terrific job in this race. If Bahrain was anything to go by, you know, he didn't quite look up for it. He aborted qualifying. Didn't have a good race. Ended up retiring in the pit lane. It's perhaps start of a redemption arc this season. Still plenty of time for him to announce himself as a championship contender. Certainly, I think Sora is a great championship contender this season. And his performance in Bahrain got him onto the podium with a third place. Sora now chasing down a win. It was ETE Rusty chasing down Star for the win last time out. And ultimately, Rusty got a penalty and didn't quite have enough pace in him. Is it going to be a similar story here? Sora, it's all well and good gaining the way he is. But if he does get a penalty at any point, it may well be game over. He'll have to find 3 additional seconds on top of the 4.6 he has to gain in the remaining 5 laps in the inaugural Tier 2 race at Jeddah. It's been great having you guys in for the ride, being the only stream this evening. And Seb and Freeman. I'm not quite sure what episode of this fight this is. And Nico on Steve F1. Steve F1 having to just cut the chicane slightly. I don't think he did enough to pick up a warning there, but Steve F1 defending there brilliantly as Nico, young gun, was right on the attack, and I held my breath for a second there as it looked like PSR Freeman's Alpine was about to go pivoting through turn 7, but fortunately kept it pointing the right way. TMS Sora has gained a second in the last lap or so, and he's still gaining as we speak. Star is going to see that gap coming down. He perhaps needs to manage his battery, because if Sora gets on him at the end of the race, and they're on pretty similar battery levels at the moment, it could be the ERS that determines this race win. PSR Freeman versus MX Seb 33. Again in the slipstream. It's a long run down towards turn 27. And obviously you get a great slingshot off that turn 22-23 sequence. It's really just a long snake, is Jeddah. And so it means you can follow very closely based on slipstream effects as well. Seb defends all the way to the inside. It means Freeman's got to go the long way round at turn 1. But Seb again defending well and fair. Carbon picking up a time penalty. It's 24 seconds behind the next car. Simba Rocks 1. I think points are out of the equation for him today. TMS Sora has now got that gap down now to 2.2 seconds, but remember, those softs are going to start hitting a cliff pretty soon, and so he won't be able to catch at the rate he is doing for much longer than this. But if he can just get into DRS, we're going to have a fantastic duel to conclude this Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. And if the Star had a duel to remember with the Star and, well, obviously Ventham for a period of time, but he's since dropped off significantly. It's now going to come full circle with another TMS driver, another McLaren chasing him down for victory. 3 laps to go. Star out in front once more. He took pole position, and at the moment doesn't have the fastest lap, but he'll take 27 more points as it stands, and so will elevate himself onto 52 points after the first 2 rounds. And looking at that, it means he's going to be very difficult to stop in this championship. But Sora is still looking to change all that. Let's cut away from that for a moment, because Nico is up the inside at turn 4 and received a hiccup in the system there, and another as Steve F1 almost spins after contact. Oh, don't give me hiccups now. 1.6 seconds is the gap. And there's certainly evidence of Sora hitting a cliff with those, well, in the pace difference. Obviously, he's still quicker at the time being, and he's still closing ever so slightly. But certainly not at a quicker rate, and he's in fact using lots of ERS now to try and just boost him to the DRS range. And off the exit of turn 27, 2 laps to go. Star 1.6 seconds in front, and that will be a satisfying margin for him, because he can now put in a couple of consistent laps to try and get this over the line. I was going to say qualifying laps, but with that comes a risk of picking up a penalty. Let's take a brief look at the warning front. Star has 2 warnings, perhaps 1 for contact, but I'm not quite sure. And TMS Sora, 3 warnings on the opening lap, followed by 2. Well, actually, Star's opening warning was for track limits, and Sora got 3 warnings for a collision there. TMS Sora, who started P13 in this race, we mustn't forget that either, is now within DRS of QBR20 Star, who is looking to break the slipstream as much as possible. It's coming down to the last lap, everyone, here in Jeddah. As Star makes his way through turn 22 and 23, looking to do everything but pick up a final warning. The same goes with Sora. This race could ultimately be decided with dramatic battling. It could ultimately be decided by a single track extend. Here we go. 1 final lap. TMS Sora in the slipstream. He's in range to attack and win this race from 13th on the grid. He saves it for now. He's not got much battery to play with. And Star holds on for the time being. But he's really, really struggling now in those medium tyres. He just hasn't quite got the grip to see him push to the extent he has been doing. Immortal getting ahead of Ventham. Freeman getting ahead of Nico on this final lap as well. But this is what we're watching as Sora runs slightly wide and grazes the wall slightly. He's going to have DRS, which is going to bring him back closer to Star. But certainly the nerves are kicking in. The exit of turn 13, hugging the inside through 14. It's an endless slipstream which Star obviously just cannot escape. Now through turn 16 and 17. Sora leaving a bit more on the table there. Star pulling to the left-hand side. Sora following him and picking up the slipstream, which will ultimately now leave Star extremely vulnerable. And I really don't want him to lose the race win like this. But you have to say, Sora deserves it. It's been a perfect alternate strategy. It's been a perfect drive from 13th. Star defends, but he's got no answer for Sora's straight line speed with the DRS. And Sora clinches it into the final corner. And if all goes to plan, he gets out of the final corner in front without a spin, and it will mean he crosses the line and takes a dramatic victory by 0.083 of a second. TMS Sora versus QBR20 Star is the championship battle we're ultimately gonna see, as Freeman does take a podium ahead of Immortal, and Immortal just misses out. I'm not quite sure what went on there due to that final lap exchange for the race win. But Ventham beating Seb by 0.016 of a second, then follows Nico. It was a great fight in the midfield. Unfortunately, it kind of collided there, if you like, with the battle for the win, and hopefully I caught as much of it as possible. But can we race here every week? That was brilliant. I thoroughly enjoyed that. What a brilliant race. What a brilliant first race in LCR Tier 2 at Jeddah. 2 rounds down, 14 more to go. Hope you enjoyed that, everyone.